Hi there, and this is a tutorial on the Four of Discs, which looks like that. It's the top view of a castle with a moat around, and you've got this orange background there indicating some sort of desert. It's all about knowing one's boundaries and whether we are actually empowering ourselves by taking care of those boundaries and those limits. You know, are we spreading ourselves too thinly, giving too much of ourselves away and not really empowering ourselves in the right way? So that's really the gist of what this card's all about. So we'll go on to the next section and look at the symbology in detail. Okay, so I think, as I mentioned in the introduction, this is basically a top view of the castle with a moat of water around it. One thing to note here, we've got the alchemical symbols on the top of the towers, but we'll come to those later. In terms of its classification, associated with Hesed, fourth Sephiroth here, high up on the Tree of Life, associated with stability, before Gebera does its work on it. In terms of its classification in the four worlds, we are in the suit of discs, so we're in the world of Saya here, and it's the fourth Sephiroth here. We'll just move on to the last classification, which is the Decan, and we're in the sign of Scorpio here, and the third Decan ruled by the Sun. So the astrology of this card is Sun in Scorpio, and here's the Rider-Waite card there, which you will get a better look at now. It's basically a man sitting on his money, wanting to hold on to what he's got. Pressing onto our card here, two main gates there. The main gate with the main entrance is on the southern side, and as you can see, we have the sign of Capricorn within inscribed on that path, and we've got the Sun here as well. So Sun in Capricorn. Capricorn is the feet on the ground, eye on the prize sign. It's got a very realistic and grounded approach to life, very practical, knows how to do things and get things done. Can be quite depressive though at times, maybe lacks the emotion to balance out. Sun energizes Capricorn. Sun gives us our dynamic nature and power. So with the Sun shining on Capricorn, it means that we've got a lot of energy to get things done. So one thing to bear in mind, story of Midas, everything he touched turned to gold, even his loved ones. So there's a warning here that there is a limitation of this process of material gain and authority, that it's not, you know, it does have its limitations, and its ability to fulfill is therefore limited. With regard to symbology of the card, the Fortress, this bestows a strong sense of power, of keeping things in and without, so that represents our boundaries. Drawbridge shows that we have control about who we let into our lives and what we actually give and give out. The four towers represent the four discs of the card, one containing each of the four elements, and we've got the crenulations around the top of the card there. So with the four elements here, those are demonstrated in this. So we've got fire, water, air, earth, and in relation to our card, these are the symbols here on top. So we have got fire, water, air, and earth. Now also with these what are called crenulations here, there are 6 on either side if we count them. So these are, that's close for what crenulation is. Just so as I say, we've got 6 of those, and 6 is the number of the Sun. If we go back to our initial diagram here, 6 Sephiroth associated with the Sun there. So these are those sort of finer details of why these are just not arbitrary drawings. They're actually there they do contain a fair bit of symbology there. So I think, as I said, the southern gate is the main gate, and that goes really into Malkuth, which is the 10th Sephiroth, and this is where most of the power of the card is directed. So it really represents the fact that our power is going out into the world. If we just again move on to, so it's Malkuth here, into the world. It's often said that this Sephiroth isn't really part of the tree anyway, it's just like a pendulum that swings, and therefore again that's another demonstration of the fact that this card, again in the suit of discs, is all about what happens practically, what we see in our life. The elements there are all separate and stable. 4 is a stable number, and the elements being contained within a closed structure means there's nothing lost. Therefore we maintain our security and strength. There's a solidity about us. Again, the castle being very solid, very solid structure. So it's all the elements coming together in the form of a material thing in our life. So the air represents our intellectual power, water, emotional fluidity, fire, spiritual energy, and earth, physical health and well-being. And as I said, the moat was our boundaries and knowing where they are. So it's like a restraining factor. So the discs themselves are square in this card, which means again further stability. I'm not going to roll off anywhere. So with divinatory meanings, it's a need to set limits and boundaries and become more established in your character and integrity. Downside, life may be orderly and secure, but it also may be barren and discontented. It might just be stale, and the orange background hints at this. So the orange is like the colour of the sun, but our life might become a desert if it's too constrained and emotionally not really fulfilled. So the castle is our sanctuary where we find our inner voice, or it can be something materialistic to show off to others if we really want to. This card often appears in a reading when we are looking at a situation where we may need to make practical decisions, and also needing to be true to ourselves and finding out where our boundaries lie. So in short, represent financial and material security that is important to us, important to have solid foundations, willing to work for what you want, confidence in applying yourself in the world, a dependable person. Reversed, not sharing enough of what you have, becoming too materialistic, not knowing your boundaries, financial insecurities, cold and unempathic. So I think that gives you probably more than enough information, and we'll just try and apply that in the final section with some other cards in view. Okay, for the last section we'll just look at the power card in relation to a few others. So here we've got the power card and works card together, along with the 3 of swords, which is in the previous tutorial. So the first 2 cards, the power and works, really go well hand in hand together, both indicating that there is a strong desire to have some sense of material security, whether it's been a home or in your job, but just to make sure that you're financially sound, good in assets. So very sort of down-to-earth, grounded card. Could both the works and the power card have got Capricorn as its sign, so you'd expect a lot of practical effort and things being very down-to-earth. In relation to this, we've got the Sorrel card, so quite often that would represent someone who's accumulated security in their physical world, whether it be their home, as I said, or a job or career, or even just accumulating finances, but someone who is harbouring emotional hurt, which could be the loss of a parent, or loss of a relationship, or damage from a previous relationship. And relating that back to the power card, as we can see, it's quite a defensive sort of card and very materialistic. So you've got someone here that may have this defensive attitude towards their life because of previous emotional hurt. So that's a possible reading for those 3 cards. If we add the debauch card in, again, this could be someone who is materially, as we said, materially quite secure in themselves, but again has sort of emotional issues. This being the 7 of Cups, and this can come out in drinking. For instance, I've known people who are very successful, work really hard, very secure financially, but they drink every night to sort of counterbalance the stress that they have in accumulating their finances. Lots of high paid jobs and careers, people suffer that. 4 of Swords here. So this is again someone just taking a rest from the situation. Readings telling them to take a break, take stock, and reassess and reevaluate their life. Going back to the 3 of Swords with emotional hurt, forgot to mention that the crystals like the rose quartz is very good at activating the heart center. So there are lots of crystals, therapies and what have you that you can very helpful in overcoming the negative constraining energies of the 3 of Swords. The Gain card would again represent someone, these would go all really positive together, but again indicating that someone's focus is really on the material aspect of their life at this time. Self-doubt creeps in. Pile is getting heavy. Self-doubt creeps in to their ability to have success in their life. And we'll do one last one, which is the Love card. This could actually represent someone who is very much in love with their work, or it could represent someone who is excluding love from their life. There's an undertone of the 4 of Discs, which has the aspect, because you've got that desert there and that sense of barrenness outside of the castle, that the rest of their life is not so hunky-dory, and it might actually be barren of love. So again, things like the rose quartz would help. We've got Herkimer diamond here, which is not a diamond, it's just the name of a particular type of quartz which is found in the USA. And it's supposed to be very good for being helping in meditation, focusing people on their spiritual path, good for channeling information and channeling information by holding it when you meditate, but just having it on you will direct you to a more spiritual awareness. So yes, this is actually a beautiful crystal. So that could be another thing which would help to balance out the rather defensive nature of the power card and very materialistic type of power card. As I say, always try and bring things back to a sort of a spiritual path, because that's what the tarot really is all about. So even when we're dealing with the discs, I'll still try and bring it in to perspective. Okay, and that's a wrap for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.